Hello and welcome on this channel. My name is Maureen. If you are new here, I am a mindset coach and breathwork practitioner. And on this channel, we chat about everything kind of mindset, spirituality, manifestation, sometimes psychology, sometimes biology, and just anything that is related to wellness. And so today I thought I would do a little bit of a different format, and we're gonna do a little bit of a story time on how I became an entrepreneur, how I became a self-employed. So without further ado, let's dive into it. So there are different stories on how people became entrepreneurs. Sometimes I hear people saying that they, after high school or after studying, they immediately became an entrepreneur, or self-employed, or have their own business. And there are people like me who actually never would have thought they would have become an entrepreneur. I never would have thought I would be where I am today, just probably like a year prior to this year right now. If you would have told me that, I would have been like, no way, I'm not doing that. But here we are today. So how did I come here? Well, let's dive into it. So when I was in high school, we're going a little while back, I was studying in a specific program. I was studying biotechnology because I wanted to be an oceanographer. I don't know how you call that in English. A person who studies the ocean. Oh, spoiler alert. Also, if you don't know, I am originally from France. So if you hear a little bit of an accent sometimes, that's why. Coming back to the story. So I wanted to be an oceanographer, and I had to go to university for that. And then the job counselor, I guess you can call her that, the person who was counseling students to, where to go after high school and kind of what to do, what were their options, came into my class and kind of only told us that the only option for us was to go to a college. Like, I guess the equivalent here is called, college, like a 2-year program, instead of going to university where you have bachelor's and master's and kind of all of that. So she kind of limited us to have this only 2-year program, and she kind of told us that was our only option. But in my head, it was not even an option because, again, I wanted to go to university and not a college program. So what did I do? I applied for university. Guess what? I got into university. I was accepted. And I guess that was my first kind of victory, if I can say, of not being put into a box and not really follow just what someone says, but really follow what I wanted to do and staying true to myself. And that's something that's always been important to me. I never really wanted to hear what other people, wanted me to do or what people wanted me to be. And I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. That's it. And so I've always kind of been after that. And then I didn't really like my program, so I completely switched to another program. I went to a bachelor in international business and to study sustainable tourism as my master. Anyway, during my bachelor, I took a class that was entrepreneurship. I took it because it was part of my program, and I thought it was an interesting class, but at the time, I never thought that I would become an entrepreneur. Like, that was not in my plans. I thought that I could not really do it, and that would be, like those very driven and ambitious people that would have no life outside of their work, and I didn't want that. And I think I even remember I wrote it in my midterm exam, like there was a question like, oh, do you think you could be an entrepreneur? And I, in that section, I think I said no, because I love my personal life too much. I want to spend time with my family and my friends, so I could not be an entrepreneur. So I really had this limiting belief that when you're an entrepreneur, you have to work even more than when you're an employee. Little did I know. Of course, during this kind of my studying, I had student jobs next to it. So during the summer, next to also the studying year. So it's not like I wasn't estranged to professional life. I did have part-time jobs, but I was not, like full-time dedicated to a specific job at the time. So anyway, I graduated, yes, in 2020. And guess what? There was no job in sustainable tourism, especially for junior people like me. So what did I do? I had to go for another job. And that was already a big deception for me, that had studied for 5 years, that I was working part-time, and on the summer that I was, doing my homeworks, my exams, like all of these challenges, just to be told at the end that there's no job and I cannot work in that. So that was a hard pill to swallow, because having those part-time jobs actually really motivate me to study even more, because I did not want to be a waitress. I did not, want to babysit for the rest of my life. And honestly, God bless those person who do that for a full-time job, because that is hard. And I knew that this was not what I wanted to do. And so that's why I was studying, that's why I was going through a master program, to kind of have the promise of a job that I wanted, and a good salary, and saving money, saving for retirement, all of this. That's what university or college is promising you in a way. But nothing could have been further from the truth for me. And I was very disappointed in that. And even though I loved what I studied, I was wondering, why am I even doing this? Why did I even study? Why did I even spend all these years doing this, just to be told that, I cannot work in that field anymore? So anyway, I am kind of deriving from the story, but going back to it, I had my first job recently after I graduated, actually, and I freaking hated it. Okay, I'm not gonna enter too much detail because that video would be so very long, but basically I hated it. Even though I had a pretty good pay, I didn't like it at all, and I ended up quitting. And I then went to another job. It took me, I think, a good 6 months before I could find a job, because there was something with my visa. I currently live in Canada. So there was, my visa was about to expire, and I was trying to get a new one. So no one would really hire me. So there was all this dynamic going on. So it took me a while to get a job, but I eventually got a job in Tier 0 grocery store. And I was just basically packing groceries for people, because everything was still, online and being delivered. And actually, I really enjoyed that time, even though the pay was not that great. I really enjoyed that time because it was a very small team. I didn't have to be stressed, and it was great. And within that first year into the company, I got 2 promotions, and I ended up being a buyer. So what was cool is that I got to pitch my role, basically, because the role didn't exist before. The company was slowly growing, and I got to pitch my role, and I got to say, hey, this is how I can help you, and this is what I would love doing, and blah, blah, blah. And so I ended up having the role ended up being created. And in that time, in my personal life, I was also really into, I came back to spirituality. I had been a few years prior, but kind of like left it aside during my studying years. And I came back to it. So I was doing, a lot of meditation, yoga, everything manifestation. I loved it. It was such a fun kind of game for me to do. So it was something I really enjoyed doing in my personal life. And I also discovered breathwork at that time. So I was going through my certification, but I wasn't thinking of becoming an entrepreneur because I still loved my role into a company. And that feeling when you're learning, but you kind of also getting comfortable into your role, and it feels just safe. It feels like a safe space. And I didn't think at all to jeopardize this because I'm like, finally, I got a role where I'm not stressed, where I'm okay. Unlike my first job where I had panic attacks and I was crying, I'm okay in this role. But there was still a few things that were, bothering me. And at some point, I started to think that maybe it would be great for me to start a business into this, because my coworker was and still is a yoga teacher, and she kind of inspired me to go after my own thing as well, because we had a lot of talks, and she was also a little bit older, so she got more experience into different workplaces. So she had that comparison for herself, and she found out that work life into a company was not exactly for her. But at the time, I didn't really think about it again, because in my opinion, I thought I only had one path to go on, and the path was companies and me being an employee. And I didn't think that I would have the determination, the drive of being an entrepreneur, because I saw this as this huge mountain that I could not climb. And I started to kind of be really annoyed in my work, and I started to be really annoyed with companies, and that I felt like I didn't fit into the company. And with time, I really understood that as women, we have inserted ourselves into the workplace, but the workplace was initially built for men. And for men who have a house in the house, what am I saying? A wife in the house who is taking care of the house, who is taking care of potential children, and they don't have to do, anything when they got home. They got the food, groceries, and all that taken care of. But then, women got into this workplace that was originally built for men, and the system stayed the same, except that us, we were not necessarily staying at home or taking care of whoever, and that added kind of pressure onto both sides to do other things in our personal life. But we still had a 5-day work week. We still sometimes need to do overtime, and we still have the same conditions of work than what was before. So the social dynamic have changed now that everyone is able to go to work. Amazing, great. But it's still pretty, unequal, because in our personal lives, the mental and physical charge, if I can say, of doing groceries, laundry, administration, all of these, they stayed the same, is the same. So it became really burdensome for me to think like, hey, is this adult life? Like at university, I kind of had this dream idea of what working life would be. And it's none of that. It's way harder than I thought. Why is no one telling us how to live adult life? Why no one told us how to live life? And I started to think, is this life? Is this life just getting up, going to work from 9 to 5 or whatever, and then you go home, you're tired, but you still do your laundry, your thing, and you still need to have social life, and you still need to work out and do your sports and maybe take care of your kids? Whew. Wow, is this life? And I thought, this is not what I want. This is not what I hoped for. This is not what I want for myself. And I know it works for so many people. Honestly, that's amazing. If you can be into, this type of system and you feel great and you're happy and you love it, oh my gosh, good, amazing, great, great, great for you. It was just not for me. And when I realized that, I was about to quit my job. But what happened is that my job, or not my job, the company had financial problems, and they ended up laying off several people. And I was one of the people. My role was made redundant. What was great about that? Well, I was shocked, obviously, of being laid off because I had never been laid off before. But the great news about that is that I was able to get some government funding support because I was laid off, but it was not my fault. So it gave me some time to kind of process and figure out what I wanted to do next. And this is the moment where I thought, okay, this is exactly the perfect timing that I needed. I'm going to start building my business. And why I wanted to build my business is to just be able to have the different system for myself. And I know that I am the one setting my own boundaries, my own schedule. I don't have to work 70 hours. Actually, I value rest to have fresher ideas, a fresh mind on the next day or, in the next few hours, rather than killing myself at 70 hours. And I know this system is possible. I knew it because I obviously saw other people, close to me having that system of life. And I just thought, this is what I need. As a woman, as someone who menstruates, I work by cycle. I don't work day by day like men do. I work by cycle. And so according to which cycle I'm in, my level of hormones are going to fluctuate. And I'm going to have different levels of energies. And I want to respect my body. I want to respect who I am. And right now, the only system that will allow me to do that is to be an entrepreneur. And I'm not saying this is easy. Okay, we're going to get to that. I'm not saying it's easy. And I'm not saying that sometimes you don't have to work a lot. But you have the possibility to set up your own schedule. You have the possibility to set up rest. You also have the possibility to increase your revenue if you want to, if you have the capability to do that. Again, I'm not saying it's easy because some month you are actually having close to nothing and it's really going to work your mindset, your nervous system. But there were a few freedom possibilities that I did not see into being an employee that I saw into being an entrepreneur. And just as much as I went to university, I always thought, oh, how am I going to get through the next year? Like, wow, this seems so complicated. And, I went through those years. And in the end, I was like, okay, I'm going to take it one step at a time. And I made it possible. I passed all my years. In the end, I was like, okay, little by little. And in the end, I got my master's degree. And I passed all what I thought would be mountains were actually just hills. And I managed to do that just little by little. So sometimes what seems like a huge mountain to us is actually not as bad as we thought. It was just a fear. It was just this fear that we had. And that's exactly what happened for me. When I thought of being an entrepreneur, when I thought of being self-employed and having my own business, I kind of saw this as this huge mountain because the only references I had were people who were talking about waking up at 5 a.m. and, just doing like, climbing, like do. But I didn't have any example at the moment of having someone who do, but also rest. and give themselves time to live this life however they want to. Just having this type of freedom was something that I was really craving and looking for, because I felt so entrapped into being in a company. And we have this false sense of security. Yes, you do have, a salary that is constant, but you also can get laid off at any moment because nothing is guaranteed. So it's kind of a false sense of safety. But I do understand the fact of receiving, a constant salary and not having to take your own decisions or like harsh decisions like an entrepreneur can do. So again, I'm not diminishing the work of being an entrepreneur and what it takes to be an entrepreneur. I'm just saying, and I want you to see that there are other options out there if you want to look for other options out there. If you just feel like the system that you're in doesn't really fit who you are or who you want to be, there are other options. And I really hope that my story is helping you today to kind of see those other options that are available to you. You are creating your life and you don't have to settle. Even though right now you might think, oh, but this specific situation, I cannot settle. Everything is a choice, okay, in this life. Everything is a choice. And whatever choice you make, you don't know if it's going to be the right one for you or not. There's no way to know. But I do believe that the path that you choose is the right one for you in this very moment. Maybe, in a few years or soon, I'm going to realize, hey, I don't want to have a business anymore. I want to go back to being an employee. Who knows? Honestly, I am not closing door. So don't close door for yourselves, okay? Just let things be open to other things coming up. If you don't like the situation that you're in the moment, try to see what other options. Let yourself be creative and imagine a life. Like, what would be your life if you could be or do what you want to? And again, it's not because someone is telling you that you should be in a specific box that you should stay in it. Because when we're at school, we're not taught a lot of things, okay? At least when I was in school, I was not taught anything about financial literacy. I was not taught anything about the power of resting. I was not taught anything about, my own body, how the hormones level in our cycles fluctuate, meaning that we are going to have different levels of energy if you're someone who menstruates. And I was not taught that. And I think it's just depriving us of a certain power. They're depriving us of a power to know our own bodies, to be connected to our own bodies, to be connected to what it means to be an adult and all the things that you need to do. And I've mentioned financial literacy, like how do you save money? How do you build for retirement? How do you invest? All those things that are very, very important in daily life, you are not taught necessarily at school. So sometimes you gotta be the one initiating your own learning. You gotta be the one initiating, going out of the box that maybe someone put you in, or that you've put yourself in, but you actually want out. Sometimes I feel like we were set up to only be in, this one path. This one very strict path, but it doesn't work for everyone. Everyone is just so different. We're so different. We have different experience. We have different personalities, and we should honor that. We should honor the differences, and we should honor that there are as many paths as there are human beings. And when I mean path, I mean life path that you can take. And you have the right to change your decisions. You have the right to change your path as much as you want to. So that's really what I wanted to convey today to you, and letting you know through my story, hopefully, that you can really take those steps for yourself and that you can think for yourself, and that you can research and educate yourself and do whatever you want to do. And if you're perfectly fine where you are right now, amazing, then you found your path, and that's great. Whatever it is, whatever, if you want to stay at home, be a stay-at-home dad or a stay-at-home mom, whether you want to go on top of the world and be the leader of multinational companies, or you just want to be you as an employee. I'm using career as an example because we're talking about career today. But even if you just want to be, it's a lot of work to be an employee, okay? If you want to be an employee, just be, okay? That's it. If you feel fine where you are right now, why wanting to change? Why wanting to always go after something? Find that, for myself, I like to have a balance, because as an entrepreneur, I have to have my own projects, right? I have to have some determination and be driven by it. But I find there's a good balance with being also okay in the present moment, and the ability to rest can be really hard sometimes because we're always thinking about the next project, the next thing, the next blah, 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 blah. There's always the next something, okay? The present moment, it's not coming back, that moment. So there's a balance to have as well between those two. And that's what I wanted to be an entrepreneur as well, to set up my own schedule, because when I was an employee, I didn't feel like I could have that balance of resting, because outside of work, I was just doing chores. And maybe if I would have energy to see my friends, amazing. But I always felt like I had so much to do and so little time or energy. And that was very hard for me to accept as a life. And actually, I didn't accept it as a life, because I am today setting up my own life and my own work life, which is amazing. And again, it's hard sometimes. Okay, I'm not saying it's easy. There are moments where your mind is just like, I'm not good enough. And you compare yourself and, a lot of those things. And you also have to learn so many things. You have to be able to do everything, make decisions and all that. And it's scary. It is scary to go out of the comfort zone like that. But it's also very rewarding when you allow yourself to do so, because you are setting up new boundaries, kind of like you have boundaries there when you start, and then you go out of your comfort zone, then your boundaries go a little bit higher when you go on the other side of fear. But anyway, I guess that was it for today. I'm going to stop here because I could talk about this for hours, but let me know if that interests you. I would love to know if, you have a similar situation or just your very own situation. I would love to hear it in the comments. If you've loved this video, please hit the like button and the subscribe button. And if you want to hear more story time, I would, love to give that to you, or if you want to hear about a specific subject, let me know as well. And I guess that's it for me today. All right, I will see you soon, and I hope you have a nice day. All right.